What kind of job is that? You just sit at a computer all day, my sister-in-law sneered, her words dripping with disdain. You're just a housewife, my mother-in-law added, the smug smile on her face suggesting that her agreement somehow diminished my worth. Living with my in-laws had become an exhausting cycle of disparaging comments and petty comparisons, each one slowly eroding my patience. Their constant belittling echoed in my mind long after the conversations ended, fueling a quiet resentment that simmered beneath the surface. But eventually, their jabs went too far. It was time for them to face a truth they'd long ignored, the truth about who was really funding their comfortable lives. I'm Hannah, 34 years old, and I own a beach resort in my state. As the proprietor, I have the flexibility to choose my own workspace, and I've opted to run my business from home. But my decision didn't sit well with my mother-in-law and sister-in-law, who wasted no time in making me the target of months of ridicule and condescension. Despite their harsh words, I stood my ground, confronting them in a way that maintained my dignity. I was raised in a family involved in multiple industries, with the most profitable being the hotel and resort sector. At 17, I began interning at our family-owned lakeside resort, quickly becoming immersed in the business. The thrill of interacting with clients and managing accounts quickly became a part of my daily routine. Seeing my passion for the family business, my parents surprised me on my 24th birthday with a life-changing announcement. "Sweetheart," my mother said, her tone warm, "your dad and I have been talking for a while, and we believe you've shown more than enough potential." She handed me a stack of papers. "These are yours now. We're transferring the ownership of the lakeside resort to you." Overcome with gratitude, I accepted the responsibility, promising, "I won't let you down." That decision marked the start of a new chapter. I poured everything into the business, and within a year, it was thriving. Financial stability was no longer a worry for my family, though my parents' support had been instrumental. A new chapter awaited me when I met Jesse through a dating app. 6 years into owning the resort, I was thriving professionally but struggling personally, lonely and seeking companionship. I signed up for a dating app. When I matched with Jesse, I was pleasantly surprised. He was even more charming in person than his profile suggested. His easygoing nature and charisma immediately drew me in. Our connection grew quickly, and though I came from a family that taught me to be cautious about people, particularly those with an interest in money, Jesse never seemed to care about my wealth. We dated for 3 years before I finally felt comfortable enough to share the truth. "Hannah," he said one evening, his voice sincere, "I'm not here for your money, I'm here for you, the person you are." Relieved by his honesty, I finally confessed, "Jesse, there's something I need to tell you. I own the lakeside resort, and I've done well because of it, but I'd prefer if this stayed between us." He nodded understandingly, his expression unwavering. "That doesn't change anything between us." We married soon after in a grand celebration, mostly attended by Jesse's side of the family, though there were a few awkward moments. I chose not to focus on them. After all, it was our special day. I met Jesse's mother, Amanda, and sister, Sylvia, several times before the wedding. They seemed pleasant enough, albeit a little distant. Their hushed conversations and occasional awkwardness didn't raise any immediate alarms, but I did feel a sense of unease. Jesse, aware of my reservations, supported my decision to keep a healthy distance from them. A month into our marriage, Jesse approached me with a request. "Hey, babe," he said, hesitating slightly, "my mom and sister are going through a rough time. They're behind on rent and facing eviction. Would it be alright if they stayed with us for a bit?" I sympathized with their situation and agreed to let them stay. My mother-in-law mentioned they'd only need about 6 months to get back on their feet and find a new place. However, I made it clear to Jesse that while they were welcome, they needed to contribute to the household. "Living here means helping out with the chores and responsibilities," I told him. "I'll make sure they understand," he promised. What followed, however, was far from what I had expected. For some reason, Amanda and Sylvia assumed that Jesse owned our house, which wasn't a problem for me at first. However, they began to take liberties, assuming that Jesse was the primary earner in our household. The truth was, my income far exceeded his, but Jesse had never told them about my financial situation. He feared that revealing the truth would lead to exploitation, and so, they belittled me at every turn. "You don't do much around here, do you?" Amanda remarked one evening. "Jesse's the one keeping this house afloat," Sylvia added with a sneer. "Maybe you should pull your weight more," Amanda continued, dismissing me with a wave of her hand. To make matters worse, they repeatedly neglected their chores, leaving messes in every corner. Despite Jesse's efforts to encourage them to clean up after themselves, they simply refused, citing the family bond as their excuse. "We're family," Sylvia said nonchalantly, shrugging as if it were some kind of justification. "Why are you so uptight about this?" Owning the resort gave me the luxury of choosing my workspace, and I opted to work from home. Strangely, Amanda had a problem with this. "Working from home isn't real work," she remarked dismissively. "You just sit at your computer all day." "What kind of job is that?" Sylvia echoed, her tone dripping with disrespect. Their disruptive behavior only fueled the growing tension between us. While I was in the midst of handling critical business matters, they'd intentionally interrupt, demanding that I run errands just before an important meeting. "Hannah, can you run to the store for us?" my mother-in-law would ask, right as I was logging into a crucial call. When I tried to resist, they would play the card of financial constraints or lack of transportation. What made it worse was their persistent unemployment and complete lack of initiative to find a job. They were living in our home, using our resources, yet contributing nothing. I might have been okay with it if they at least took responsibility for their mess. Amanda and Sylvia viewed me with a certain condescension, and for a while, I managed to endure it, but living with them, subjected to their endless, petty comparisons, eventually became unbearable. "You're just a stay-at-home wife," my mother-in-law sneered one day. "Jesse works hard and brings in the money. What do you even do?" Jesse shared my frustration. "I've had enough of this," he said to me one evening, his voice low but firm. "They don't respect you, and it's getting out of hand." He hated how they trampled over me, their blatant disregard for my role in our lives. The breaking point came when I invited a few friends over for brunch. I had informed Amanda and Sylvia beforehand, asking them to stay out of the common areas for about 3 hours. They agreed without protest, and for a brief moment, I felt a sense of relief. That relief was short-lived. Half an hour into my friend's visit, Amanda and Sylvia breezed in, casually introducing themselves to my guests. A surge of irritation shot through me. To make matters worse, they started painting me as a pampered, dependent woman, living solely off the fruits of others' labor. Despite the clear discomfort on my friends' faces, who knew all too well the complexities of my relationship with my in-laws, Amanda and Sylvia reveled in my irritation. They knew exactly what they were doing, feeding off my frustration. I stood up, making it clear I was leaving. My friends quickly followed suit, and within moments, we left the house with such speed one might have thought there was a fire. For a second, I wished there actually had been one. When we returned home, I retreated to my room, hoping to avoid them long enough for my temper to cool, but their audacity lingered, igniting a fierce anger within me. They had crossed a line, and I was ready to make them understand who was truly funding their lifestyle. I decided to wait until Jesse came home from work. When he asked about my day, I recounted everything, including the way his mother and sister had acted. "Unbelievable," Jesse muttered, clearly outraged. "Do you want me to confront them?" I shook my head, a wicked idea already forming in my mind. "No, I have something better in mind. What do you think about suggesting a short getaway to the seaside, and offering to accommodate them at my private retreat?" Jesse raised an eyebrow, thinking it over. "That's genius. It'll set a firm boundary." "Here's the twist," I continued, a sly grin creeping across my face. "We take them there, but we don't let them stay. We'll enjoy the retreat, then leave them behind to figure out how to get home on their own." Jesse's lips curved into a smirk. "I love it. They'd definitely earned that." "Honestly," I added, "I think it's time we evict them completely. I'm done with their entitlement." "Perfect," Jesse agreed. "We'll evict them. I'm tired of their dependency on us. We'll draft the eviction notice and give it to them before we leave. It'll teach them a lesson they'll never forget." I laughed, feeling a strange mix of satisfaction and mischief. Why did I ever doubt you'd be on board with this? We scheduled the getaway for the following week, syncing it with Jesse's time off. In the meantime, I consulted with my attorney to have the eviction notice notarized. I couldn't wait to hand it over to Amanda and Sylvia, finally making them face the consequences of their behavior. Once Jesse confirmed his leave, we began to finalize our plan. "We need to make this vacation look completely authentic," Jesse said, his voice steady. "The more genuine it feels, the sweeter the final blow." "I agree," I said, my tone resolute. "This isn't just about getting back at them. It's about reclaiming our life and setting boundaries once and for all." To prepare, I contacted my brother to change the locks on the house. I also enlisted his friends, who might compensate, to pack up Amanda and Sylvia's belongings. The decision was made. There was no turning back. I wasn't going to let them back into my life. They needed to understand that. The trip to the lakeside would take about half a day, which gave me ample time to let Amanda and Sylvia air their grievances. Little did they know, I was planning on having the last laugh. Once everything was in order, Jesse and I casually broke the news to Amanda and Sylvia. We've planned a lakeside getaway next weekend. Would you like to join us? I asked. Amanda raised an eyebrow. Why are you inviting us? What's the catch? There's no catch, Jesse responded smoothly. We thought it would be a nice opportunity for everyone to relax and unwind. Sylvia scoffed. Relax? Or do you have something else planned? I smiled, suppressing my frustration. It's entirely up to you, but we're going either way. Despite the tension, we remained composed. We held our ground, undeterred by their objections and suspicions, determined to proceed with this trip that would mark the beginning of our lives on our own terms. As we prepared for the vacation, Amanda and Sylvia couldn't stop chattering, but Jesse and I exchanged knowing glances. After some discussion, they reluctantly agreed to join us and immediately started packing. When we finally arrived at the resort, Amanda and Sylvia were in awe. This place is stunning, Amanda exclaimed loudly. Sylvia added, Jesse, how can you afford this? It's incredible. Jesse, clearly uncomfortable, kept his head down, but Amanda and Sylvia didn't miss a chance to make me feel inferior. You should be grateful Jesse brought you here, my mother-in-law remarked sharply. Her daughter added, honestly, you don't deserve what he does for you. Despite their taunts, I walked into the resort with my head held high, while my in-laws followed, continuing to poke fun at me. Jesse waited with the bellhop to unload our bags. At the reception, the receptionist greeted me warmly, addressing me as boss. Immediately, Amanda objected. Why are you calling her boss? That title should be reserved for someone more like us. Exactly, Sylvia chimed in. She's not in charge of anything. The receptionist remained calm. Actually, Miss Hannah is my boss. Both Amanda and Sylvia froze, confusion and disbelief written all over their faces. My mother-in-law huffed. That's ridiculous. Let me speak to the manager. Little did she know, the highest authority in the building had just walked in, me. The receptionist smiled and said, I doubt the manager will be able to assist you with that. My in-laws' faces turned pale as they stammered in disbelief. But, she's the resort owner, the receptionist confirmed. The realization hit them like a ton of bricks. They began to piece together the truth, finally understanding that my time spent on the phone and laptop wasn't some idle pastime but work that had earned me everything they had belittled. When Jesse entered the lobby, they immediately turned on him. How could you deceive us? Amanda demanded. Jesse stood his ground. What's this about? Why should I disclose my wife's ownership of the resort or her wealth? It's not my place to share her business. You've embarrassed us all this time, Sylvia shouted. I spoke calmly, but firmly. If knowing about my wealth and status was necessary for you to treat me with decency, then I'd rather not have you in our lives. You don't get to decide for my son, Amanda spat. Mom, she's right, Jesse said, cutting his mother off. You both have been nothing but disrespectful. Sylvia's eyes widened in disbelief. Are you seriously siding with her over us? I've told you both time and time again to stop your unkind behavior towards Hannah, Jesse continued. You only acted decent when I was around, and even then, it was still disrespectful. I've reached my limit. I want no part of this relationship anymore. I could feel the weight of the moment settle over us, the power dynamic shifting. Jesse pulled out an eviction notice and handed it to them. Consider this your eviction notice. When you return home, your belongings will be packed, and the locks have been changed. Don't bother trying to get in. Best of luck finding your way home. Amanda's face turned red with fury. You can't just abandon your family like this. If family truly mattered to you, Jesse shot back, you would have treated us better. Sylvia tried to plead with us. At least let us stay here for now. Jesse remained firm, handing them a few $100. Here's $250 to help with your trip back. Goodbye. The look of shock on Amanda and Sylvia's faces was priceless. Finally, I was free from the constant worry of being undermined and belittled in my own home. Our sanctuary was once again a peaceful place, a place where we could truly live without the weight of toxic behavior hanging over us. Jesse and I shared a look of relief. We were both liberated, and our brief getaway to the lakeside became a much-needed reset. We returned home with a sense of lightness and anticipation for the future. 7 months have passed since that day, and I stand by my decision to never allow family members, especially toxic ones, to invade my peace of mind. Bullies in the family are insufferable, and I have no intention of tolerating them ever again. Jesse fully supported my decision. As for Amanda and Sylvia, their belongings were gone when we returned. Jesse had to fight off their lies, providing evidence to clear his name of their manipulations. As far as I know, Amanda and Sylvia have been completely cut off from the rest of the family. No one has offered them help, and they've been left to fend for themselves. Jesse and I, however, have grown closer, and our lives have flourished since eliminating the biggest source of toxicity. I wouldn't have it any other way.